3. The Way into Vipassan Meditation. Welcome to the class. I am very happy to see you. As I told you before, the most beautiful thing to see is a person sitting and meditating. Very beautiful. Since I was a young boy, whenever I saw someone meditating, I just wanted to stop and look at that person, sitting so still. His body is still and also so balanced and dignified. Sitting like this, it looks like a pyramid to me. So stable, so firm, unshakable. It represents the mind also. So stable, so still. The posture of the body helps the mind. It makes you go towards stability, calm and peace. When I see a Buddha statue, a Buddha meditating, it makes me very peaceful. I have collected some pictures, Buddha images that look very peaceful. Before I go on talking about meditation objects and different kinds of samadhi concentration, I want to answer one question that somebody asked me last week, which is a very important thing to remember. It has also a deeper meaning about the nature of our mind. I tried to find out in some books about meditation. Experienced meditators have made records, and they have found that just as the stillness of meditation is coming to him or her, the mind is becoming still, the thoughts slowing down. You become unaware of the surroundings. It means your mind is becoming more and more collected. You are going towards the samadhi state of mind, but just as that happens, do you know what happens next for some people? Just as the stillness of meditation is coming to him or her, the beginner. A beginner does not mean a person who is just starting meditating. A beginner means a person who has not gone beyond that. So you may have been meditating for a long time, but if you haven't gone beyond a certain stage, you are still in the beginning stage. This is very humbling to understand that, because if we have been meditating for a long time, we want to think that we know everything. We have gone very far. If you haven't overcome a certain stage, you are still in the beginning stage. So, just as the stillness of meditation is coming to him or her, the beginner suddenly is brought back to material realities. Material realities mean the ordinary reality, so, brought back to ordinary reality by a sudden jerk of the whole body. And why does that happen? It happens to some people. It used to happen to me. Sometimes it happened like this. I am very still, and then suddenly I hear some noise and become shocked, and wake up. When you meditate, you go into a different world, into a different reality. And this is something you should understand. It is very similar to a trance state, a kind of hypnotic state, but not really a hypnotized state. It is very similar to that. Some doctors understand very well. When you stop thinking and you are paying attention to one object, slowly and slowly your mind becomes collected and you go into a different kind of reality. So, on the threshold of that reality, you find a lot of difficulties. Your mind goes back and forth because we are so familiar with our ordinary reality. We feel safe in this ordinary reality and we want to take hold of it, keep hold of it. We don't want to let go of it. This is a protective reaction. We want to protect ourselves. One way of protecting ourselves is to keep ourselves in our conscious mind, to keep our surroundings in our conscious mind. We want to know what is going around, and we want to know the state of our body too. How is my body now? Quote, when you meditate and your mind becomes very collected, slowly and slowly you lose awareness of your surroundings. When you get more and more collected, you lose awareness of your body too. Sometimes, I mean, you are aware of the sensations, but you are not aware of the shape anymore. Sometimes the shape and size of your body dissolves because shape and size is panati. The mind puts it together, it makes it into an idea. Paramatma has no shape, no size. If you find that difficult to understand, I will give you a simile, an example from physics, Newtonian science. When you read that, you find that there is shape, size, and movement. Everything is there. You can predict everything according to Newtonian physics. The planets move around. You can predict any time, say 10 years from now, that a certain planet will be in a certain place. You can tell that it has shape, size and movement regularity. But when you get down to subatomic particles, you lose all that. There is no shape, and you cannot tell anything for sure. You can only say that there is a certain percentage of probability for a certain thing to happen. Only probability. Nothing is sure anymore. In meditation also it happens like that. In our ordinary state of awareness, we are aware of the surroundings, the shape, size, being, people, east, west, north, south, time, day, and year. When we meditate, we forget about what year it is, what day it is, what day and time it is, and sometimes also, we forget about where we are. We are not aware of that anymore, because all these are just concepts. You don't know where you are sitting. You don't know whether you are facing east or west. Sometimes very strange. You don't know where you are, and that is very scary, and it sounds like a kind of mental sickness. Some people forget who they are because they are mentally sick. But in this state also, sometimes when you go beyond ordinary reality, who you are does not matter anymore. I is just an idea. You lose all that too. As you go into that state, you come back again and again because you are very scared of it. I have to know who I am. I have to know what is happening around me, because otherwise I am so unprotected. We try to feel secure by trying to know what is happening around us, and by trying to know what is happening to our body, by trying to be conscious of our body, ourself. This is panati actually. This is very important to understand, because if you don't, you fear more and more. I am afraid to meditate. This happened to me. Suddenly with a jerk I woke up and I had tremendous fear. We are afraid to go beyond this ordinary reality. Although we want to experience something deeper, something beyond. Although we are meditating just for that. The moment we cross that threshold, some people are afraid and feel very insecure. We feel secure by being in control of our body and our surroundings. One way of being in control is to know what is going on. We want to know what is going on around us, and we want to know what is going on in our body. This is a protective reaction. When we have been tense for a long time, we become accustomed to holding on to ourselves. This happens more to people who are anxious and insecure. Imagine, for example, that you are in a deep forest and there might be tigers, snakes, and other animals around. I lived in the forest and there were tigers. Now hunters say that tigers are afraid of human beings and run away. When we first go into a place which is new to us, we feel very insecure because there is real danger. The tigers, the snakes, tigers, we can protect ourselves if we are in an enclosed area. But snakes, it is very difficult because they are so small and they can squeeze in and come into your hut because the huts are made of bamboo, not really sealed. Crawling insects, animals can come in. So when you sit and you hear noises like shish, shish, suddenly you wake up and you are really afraid. Your body reacts. What is that? Quote, you feel very insecure. When you find out that it's just a lizard, then okay, you go back and meditate, but still your mind is not totally in your meditation. You are still keeping alert. If you keep yourself alert and try to find what is going on in your surroundings, it is very hard for you to develop deep samadhi. You are still aware. You are mindful to a certain extent only. You cannot go beyond that. To go beyond that, you need to develop some kind of trust and security. This is very important. It is very good to meditate with another person whom you trust. Your teacher, a family member, or a good friend. You feel that if anything should happen to me, somebody is around to help me. For beginners, this is very important. In Burma, when we meditate, many teachers say surrender your body to Buddha. Symbolically, you give yourself way to the Buddha. It is not mine anymore. So if it is not mine anymore, I don't need to worry about it. This is symbolical giving away. Try to find out some ways to make yourself feel secure and to trust your surroundings. In this place, you don't need to be afraid of anything. Everybody around here is a meditator and the place is very safe and secure. Before you meditate, it is important to develop some kind of metta loving kindness, because metta makes you feel quite secure. I live in the forest sometimes with no building, no dwelling place, sometimes sitting under a tree, sometimes just a simple hut, sometimes made from robes. We sit and meditate, and when we develop strong metta, that strong metta makes us feel very secure. I have been living in the forest for more than 20 years and never been hurt by anything. Real deep forest sometimes. Only a few huts surrounding. To get my food, I want to get deeper and deeper into the forest, far away from civilization, because civilization is so disturbing. Anyway, if you trust yourself, that means you feel more secure. Trust yourself. Trust your practice. For beginners, it is very important to find very secure surroundings. So we become accustomed to holding on to ourselves. We become so attached to ourselves. We try to protect ourselves all the time, keeping a grip of ourselves. See if you can really feel that. I am trying to be in control of my body and mind. We are all trying to be in control. But in meditation, if you try to do that, you cannot develop deeper understanding and go beyond. You learn to let go. Let whatever happens happen. Because some of the things you experience in meditation are so extraordinary, that if you try to be in control, you back off. You cannot go further. Keeping a grip on ourselves. We do this unconsciously. That is the problem. Because consciously you try to give up the control, to let go. But unconsciously you are afraid. You are insecure. So you are still trying to be in control because this fear, anxiety has been ingrained in us. We don't know how long. It might be millions of years. It is ingrained in our DNA, I think. This is not an easy thing. To unconsciously guard against the threat of psychological disintegration. Psychological disintegration, what does that mean? Integration means we have the idea of who we are. Disintegration means it is anatta, no self, no control. Are you willing to go into that stage? There is no self. There is no control. There is just physical and mental process going on. The moment you try to control it, you are out of it. You are out of your meditation. Meditation is a kind of surrender. We always want to be in control of ourselves. I know who I am. I know what I am doing. With that attitude, we cannot cross the threshold. There is no I anymore. There is no I meditating anymore. And you are not in control of your meditation even. You are just purely aware of what is happening. Just purely aware without control. Just like you are looking at the road. You are sitting outside and looking at the road. You are not in control of any car. They are just coming and going. You can just sit and watch. I know what is going on, but I have no control. You need to develop that kind of mental state. No control. That is why I try to tell people don't resist. Don't control. Just let go and be just an uninvolved observer. The moment we see we are losing control, the moment we don't feel I am anymore, we have a certain kind of fear developing. But this does not happen to everybody. Only to some people it really happens. Then, we let go into the meditative process. Whenever that happens, try to calm down again and just tell yourself that there is no danger, no fear. Trust yourself, trust your practice, and go on. We are no longer holding on to ourselves. When we are meditating, we are not holding on to ourselves, or keeping a grip of ourselves. See if you are doing that. Trying to be in control, trying to do something. Our mind suddenly feels that we are in danger, and the sudden jerk of the body is a protective reaction to put us on guard again. So the moment we cross over to another reality, we wake up with a jerk. We want to be in control again. This is a kind of protective reaction of body and mind. This sudden jerk of the body, it is not very common, but it may be quite frightening. Just tell yourself, encourage yourself that it will go away as you develop deeper peacefulness and deeper wisdom. It will go away. This will happen a few times, going back and forth. Sometimes, the beginner may be disturbed by a sudden feeling of acute panic. The first thing is that your body wakes in a jerk. Your body reacts. But in other cases, the body is still very quiet. It does not shake. The body is in a still position, but the mind reacts. Sometimes the beginner may be disturbed by a sudden feeling of acute panic just when the stillness of mind comes to him. The meditation is abruptly brought to a halt. It comes to a stop. You wake up. This is another variety of the unconscious protective reaction. The person who is chronically tense and anxious feels that if he was to let go, something terrible would happen to him mentally. He feels that if I let go, I don't know what will happen. Maybe something very strange can happen and I may not be in control. I may not be able to come back to my normal way of being. There are many such people among us. That is why in order to develop self-confidence and courage, we need to practice. To keep 5 precepts. That makes you feel very courageous. If you are keeping the 5 precepts, you have less fear. This is real. If you believe that you are a kind, virtuous person, it gives you a lot of strength and courage. Also develop metta. When you are a loving person, it makes your mind very calm and peaceful. We are protected by our own metta. Sometimes you feel there is a kind of protection around you, like radio waves, like a magnetic field. You feel like you are protected by your loving kindness. Whoever comes into this field will not hurt you, even though they come to you with the intention to hurt you. When they cross into your field of kindness, they change their mind. Oh, I am not going to say anything. I am not going to do anything. This is very real. Try to develop loving kindness. The stronger you try to develop this kindness, the stronger your field of metta will be, and you will feel protected by your own metta. Many people ask me, how do I protect myself? Quote, you protect yourself by developing metta, and also by developing mindfulness. Both of them can protect you, and also, trust in the Buddha. Trust in the practice. Before you go into deep samadhi, sit down and reflect on your good qualities. Develop metta and reflect on the qualities of the Buddha, and then tell yourself, I will go deep into my practice, but if any real danger comes, I will wake. You can determine that, and if you do that a few times, you'll find that if something happens, you are already awake. This is very real because in some places where we live we have to do that. Not only for danger, but if you wish to get out of your samadhi at a certain hour, you can do that too. You sit and meditate. And before you meditate, you say, I am going to sit for 2 hours, after that I will wake up, and you go deep into samadhi and meditate, and when the time comes you are already awake. Look at the clock and you see it is the right time. Just 1 or 2 minutes plus or minus. When you go into real sleep also. Many meditators can do that. You have meditated and you want to go to sleep. Normal natural sleep. So you tell yourself, now I am going to sleep, but after 4 or 5 hours sleep I will get up. With that determination in your mind, slowly go to sleep and you'll wake up at the determined time. Maybe you have heard or read about these things. This is real. You can do this. The same thing you can do if any real danger comes. I will be awake, and I'll know what to do. In some cases, when people meditate for a long time, sometimes they can meditate all day without getting up even. They have to do that. In the meditation instruction books they say that you have to do that. You have to do this kind of determination because there can be real danger. What happens if a fire breaks out in the forest? It is quite a common thing to happen. So you determine that, if there is any danger I will wake up. So, this is a very good question somebody asked last week. Please ask me questions like this and give me time to prepare so that I can give you a very clear answer. This week I would like to talk a little bit more about Panati and Paramatta again, and then I would like to talk about 3 different kinds of samadhi. Paramatta is something you experience directly, without thinking about it. Paramatta is that inherent quality of mental and physical process. In fact, Paramatta is the qualities, and you cannot know anything beyond qualities. Scientists are trying to find out what is ultimate reality. Until now they have not found it, because the deeper they go the more it becomes elusive. Matter has no shape, no size. The smallest particle of matter, something like photons. Light is photons, just packets of energy that have no mass. Can you imagine something with no mass? Just pure energy. This is light. What is beyond that nobody can tell. The only thing we can know about it is the quality. Nothing more than that. In meditation also, direct experience is the quality. For example, when you touch something, what do you feel? You feel it is warm. That is the quality. You feel it is soft. That is also the quality. You feel some sort of vibration, movement, which is also the quality. But we cannot touch leg. Leg is something you put together in your mind. You cannot tell the quality of your leg. You cannot even touch your leg actually. Try to understand this. In the beginning it is very hard to understand this. What? I cannot touch my leg. Here it is. Quote, but how do you know that this is a leg? It is because you put together many ideas. If you touch something, you close your eyes and touch something. Can you tell what it is? Can you tell the shape? You cannot. You can only tell the shape only when you get in contact. It is a flat surface, but you cannot tell the shape of the ball. How do you tell the shape of the ball? Because you look at it and put the idea together. Or you can touch and you can say that, oh, I know the shape, it is a round ball, it is hollow inside, it is about 1 cm thick. Quote, how do you tell that? You put so much data together. But if you take only one datum you cannot tell anything. Except the quality. It is hard, it is cold, nothing more than that. In meditation we come down to this simple pure sensation. Nothing added. That is what I tried to talk about Thursday. But I don't expect that people can understand it right way. Nothing added. Just direct experience. That is what we are trying to get, because this is really what is happening all the time. The moment we experience something, we try to put together many ideas to form an idea about it from the past memories, from the eyes, and from other information too. Try to understand the idea of what Paramattha is, because this is the object of our Vipassana meditation. Unless you can keep your mind on Paramattha, you cannot really develop deep insight. You can develop deep samadhi by concentrating on any object, sound or shape, color, a word, an idea, even nothingness. Once I tried to meditate on nothingness, tried to develop some samadhi by practicing anapana, concentrating on the breath at the nostrils, and then tried to develop some samadhi by staring at a disc, a light brown earth-colored disc, staring at it and keeping my mind into it, and even when I close my eyes it is in my mind, so I try to get inside that image. Later I got a piece of wood and cut a circle inside and put that on the window, so that I cannot see anything outside, trees or houses, and look at the hole and see that this is a hole. Hole means there is nothing there. So just staying in the hole and thinking that there is nothing there, nothing is there. And it is very strange. Your mind can get absorbed in this nothingness and it becomes very peaceful. Very, very peaceful. Even now I would like to do that. However, I don't want to do that anymore because you cannot develop deep insight. You can get absorbed and get very peaceful. Do you know why it is peaceful? Because where there is nothing, there is nothing to disturb your mind. You cannot think about nothingness. It is the end of everything. It is very similar to, but it is not nibbana. You are just looking at nothingness and trying to keep that nothingness idea in your mind. Sometimes you close your eyes and you can still see a bright hole and you are thinking nothing, just nothing, hard to talk about, but it feels really peaceful. What I mean is that you can develop samadhi by concentrating on any object. You can just sit and recite Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, the whole day. Your mind can get absorbed any word, any sound, any shape, any image, any idea. Once you can get absorbed into it, you develop samadhi. So that is the meaning of samadhi. To get absorbed into some concept, some non-changing sensation or idea even. When you want to develop deep insight about reality, you have to be in touch with reality. But in fact we are always in touch with reality. Always. But we change that reality into a concept. All the time we are changing reality into concept. What do we see? We see reality actually. But immediately after that we change it into concept. We see only colors, black, red, brown, white, but from our past experience we know this is a human being and this is somebody I know. If you forget about your memory, you don't know who it is. If you see something you haven't seen before, what idea do you from? For example, here people bring many different kinds of fruits and cakes and bread. Sometimes I don't know what these things are. I have to ask people, what is this? I want to know what I am eating. I feel insecure if I don't know what I am eating. When we don't know something we feel insecure. We want to know, what is this? How do you make this? Is it agreeable for me? I want to know. If people bring something and put it down, fruit, cake, any kind of pastry, very beautiful shapes, it looks like a prawn, and I was looking at it, what is this? Sometimes they bring swine meat, but if they don't tell me I won't know, and before I eat it, can I guess the taste? No way. I can sit there and think about what it tastes like and spend the all day and will never find out. Can I ask another person, tell me what it tastes like? Quote, this person will be telling me the whole day what it tastes like and I would be listening and still wouldn't know. The only way to find out is to put it into your mouth, chew, and then you will know what it is. We are always in contact with reality, but immediately we change it into concept. When I see some very strange fruit I have never seen before, like kiwi. The first time I ate kiwi was here in Australia. I don't know what it is, but I can see the color, and when I put all the different colors together I get the shape. In painting there is a system called Pointillism. You take a very sharp something and then you make a small point, and then you put the points together and then make a picture. So to take this as an example, we see only small colors, then put it all together and create a shape in our mind. It is our mind which creates a shape. Our eyes cannot see shape. This is also another difficult thing to understand. If you take away color, what is there to see? Nothing left. Everything disappears. It is the same thing with sound. We hear sound which is real. We don't hear words. Words are something we create in our minds. We learn. It is a learning process, depending on our memory. When you go to a country where people speak a language you don't understand, you hear the sound but you don't understand the meaning. The sound is real, but the words and the meaning is something we create. It is very useful. I don't mean that it is useless, but when we want to develop deeper understanding of the reality which is beyond the reality of ordinary reality, we need to go beyond words and meanings. When a meditator is meditating and he is really mindful and really sharp on the point, on the moment, if somebody speaks nearby, this person can hear the sound but will not understand the meaning. This is one of the tests. In some monasteries in Burma they do that. When somebody develops some sort of samadhi, the teacher will say, "Go and sit near a group of people talking and meditate." Quotes. In some monasteries in Burma they do that. When somebody develops some sort of samadhi, the teacher will say, "Go and sit near a group of people talking and meditate." Quote. Deliberately the teacher puts the student in a noisy place. Like you go and sit in the kitchen and listen to people talking, and if you can really become mindful you can hear the sound but you don't understand the meaning. It does not disturb you anymore, because it does not create any idea in your mind. Just sound passing away, passing away. For a beginner it is difficult. Even here there are cars going along the road. You get disturbed. Oh, so many cars going along the road. But when you become really mindful you hear the sound but it does not disturb your mind. Try to find that out more and more. What paramattha is, and what is panati. You cannot see movement even. This is another thing very strange to understand, because we always think that we see movement. Movement is the domain of your bodily sensation, not the domain of your eye. How do we think that we see movement? Something appears and disappears. Another thing appears and disappears. Let's say you have a computer screen and you have a program which will flash a very small dot and it will disappear. Another flash very close to the same dot, not on the same space but very close nearby. Flash, it disappears. Another dot flash and it disappears. It happens very quickly. What do you see? You see a dot moving, but actually it is not a dot moving. Try to understand this. There is no such thing as movement. We cannot see a movement. Something appears and disappears. Another thing appears in a different place and disappears. Another thing appears in a different place and disappears. Now let's take another example. Light a candle. Can you move the flame from this place to that place? Think of the flame only. Don't think of the candle. And try to get your mind on the flame. The flame is something burning and disappearing all the time. So you cannot move the flame of a candle from this place to that place. When you brought it here, that flame disappeared a long time ago, but something gives that continuity. keeps burning. Try to get closer and closer to this idea of impermanence. That's why Buddha said, Nikam Navava Sankasa. All conditioned phenomena are always new. There is nothing old. Old means the same thing. There is no such thing as the same thing. You might have read in some philosophy books. I don't remember who said it, but someone said that you can't get into the same river twice. But I would like to say that you can't even get into the same river once. Where is the river? What do you mean by you? When you take the big picture of a river, you get the idea of river. When you take that of a person as something enduring, then you can say that this person goes into that river and he comes back again, and he cannot go back into the same river again because the water is moving. Even the idea of river is something you put together in your mind, and the idea of a person also is something you put together, and it is always changing all the time. Take another example so that you'll have many examples and get the meaning very clear. Take a big canvas bag, fill with sand, very fine sand, and tie it with a rope and hang it on a long rope. Make a small hole at the bottom. What will happen? The sand will fall down. What do you see? You'll see a line. Is that line real? Is that line really there? No. It seems like a line, and then you take hold of the bag and push it again. What will you see? You'll see a line moving. Is that moving line real? No. There is no moving line. There are just fine grains of sand falling in different places. An illusion of a line moving back and forth. But there is no line. Only fine grains of sand, falling. If you forget about the bag of sand and look at the line, you get a better idea. There is no line actually. It is the same thing with our body. It is always arising and passing away. The shape is not the domain of your eye. It is something the mind puts together. Also smell. You can smell the smell, and we say, this is rose. But the smell is not rose. Rose is an idea that we create in the mind. The smell is real. But the name is something you have learnt, and you put the smell with the shape and color of the rose. Ordinary reality rose. If you don't put things together, how do you understand pure sensations only? Sometimes my teacher asked me, is sugar sweet? Quote, he asked me again and again when I was studying meditation. I said, what a question to ask. I said, yes. Sugar is sweet. He said, really? Quote, I thought, what does he mean by that? I can't understand that question. Why is he asking me if sugar is a sweet? He said, is the name sugar real, or is that a concept? Quote, I said, the name is just a name. Concept. Then he said, the name is not sweet. Quote, I said, yes. You are right, the name is not sweet. Quote, then he said, what is sweet? Quote, it is not sugar anymore. You can only say that sweet is sweet, and even this name sweet is a name only. And what is that? Some sensation on your tongue which you call sweet, and you put that idea together. If you show it to somebody without telling the name or the taste and ask, what is the taste of this? He will not be able to tell you. We create our own reality. This is necessary, important for functioning in our ordinary way of being. But it becomes a hindrance in understanding extraordinary reality. This reality is also reality. I am not invalidating this ordinary reality, because Buddha spoke about different levels of reality. There is agreed upon truth or conventional truth. It is a truth. It is not a lie. But when you want to understand Paramat, the reality, which is a kind of transcendental reality, we have to go beyond this ordinary truth. But we get stuck in this ordinary truth. We don't want to let it go. We get trapped in this ordinary truth. So my teacher, many times he tells me that we are trapped in concepts. We are imprisoned by concepts. When first he spoke about that, I could not understand what it meant. We are trapped. We are imprisoned in concept, but I tried to understand. What does he mean? How are we imprisoned in concept? After a few months I began to understand. Yes, we are imprisoned in concepts. Ideas are what makes you happy or unhappy. If you really get in touch with Paramatma, there is nothing to make you happy or unhappy. So I found out. All the idealisms, all the isms, communism, democracy, Buddhism, are actually a prison. Whatever ism, because we get attached to the idea. We are imprisoned. We are not free. You can function even better in this ordinary reality because you are not imprisoned anymore. You know what is going on. You can function very well. Adapt in any place. It is much easier if you understand the other reality. We take this reality so seriously that it hurts. We cannot let it go because it hurts. Try to understand why we are meditating, what we are aiming at, and what kind of reality we are trying to understand. This is just another step from this conventional reality to another, how do I say it, the real reality. Because I don't want to use the word ultimate reality, because I've discussed about this with Venerable Nanavijoti about this word ultimate, and we got so confused that we had to drop the word ultimate. What do we mean by ultimate? It is very difficult to talk about. It is a deeper reality which is not created by our mind. Even then we have to understand this reality and go even beyond that. There is another reality there, which is beyond mental and physical process. From this conventional reality we go to Paramatma reality where there is just process, just phenomena, nothing lasting, not being. From there we go into another reality where there are no phenomena, which is also another reality which is very difficult to understand and very difficult to talk about. But that will come later. I'll try my best to talk about it and hope that I won't make you more confused because there are things that are beyond words. We try our best to talk about it. Later we will talk about this Paramatma more and more. Now I will talk about the 3 different kinds of samadhi concentration. The first samadhi that I want to talk about is jhana. You have heard about the word jhana. Jhana is to get absorbed into some idea, like metta. You develop metta by thinking of loving thoughts. May I be happy, may I be happy, may I be peaceful. And after a while you really feel that, I really want to be happy. But it is very strange, people are very strange. Do you really want to be happy? We should ask these simple questions again and again. Do you really want to be happy? What do you mean by happy, and do you know how to get this happiness? Whatever we do every day, we are doing it because we think that it will make us happy. We have been doing that for so long. Have you found that happiness? We can develop that happiness. I want to be happy, and you can share that wish with other people also, just like me. He also wants to be happy. She also wants to be happy. So, you're putting yourself and another person on the same level. You are not making any difference. Just as I want to be happy, he wants to be happy, she wants to be happy. No difference. Can I have the same equal wish for another person? No better or no worse. Quote, you cannot say, I wish other people happier than me. No, that is not real metta. We have to be together. So after a while you can really feel that, oh, I really want that person to be happy. Quote, in the beginning it is difficult to have that sort of kindness towards total strangers. So just think about your parents, your teachers or your brothers, sisters or your spouses. This is another difficulty again. Because I once tried to teach metta meditation to somebody and that person said, I don't want to think about myself. I said, just develop metta to yourself. May I be happy? And that person said, I want to forget about myself. I hate myself. Because she had done so many terrible things, she was very aggressive and unkind. She cannot even be kind to herself. I asked her, can you have metta for your parents? Quote, she said, I hate my father. He was an alcoholic, he left the family and he died. So we were very poor and we had a difficult time when we were young. He didn't care about us. He didn't love us. Quote, so I said, what about your mother? Quote, oh, when my father left her she went to live with her boyfriend. So what happened to you? Quote, my brother and I somehow we tried to survive. And my mother sometimes came and gave us some money to eat. Quote, I said, what about your teachers? Quote, she said, I can't think of my teachers. I can't think of them as somebody who has done something good to us. Quote, very difficult for her to have real metta for herself and others. I felt so disheartened. I thought this is something very strange. Because normally we think we love ourselves and at least we love somebody. There is somebody in our life that we love. But this person says that there is nobody that she can love. Nobody for whom she has loving kindness. At last I asked her, is there anybody in this world that you can really feel kindness for? Quote, after a while she said, well, I love my dog. And it is not my dog actually. It is a dog of a person with whom I share the house. It is not really my dog. But I love that dog. Quote, I found out slowly and slowly that some people find it is very difficult to develop metta. Metta meditation, it is very important for Vipassana. That is why I try to emphasize it. If you don't have metta, your heart is dry. You cannot even practice Vipassana. You need the base, the foundation, metta, and also trust, respect for Buddha, trust and respect for yourself and for your teacher, and trust in the practice. Also the method you are practicing. If you don't have those things, there is no point in practicing meditation. Sometimes you can fool yourself just imagining, I am happy, I am peaceful. But you cannot get beyond that. You just imagine. It is not real and you can get absorbed in any idea. Even metta. Also Buddha. Sometimes I get very absorbed in thinking about the qualities of the Buddha. It makes me feel very happy, very peaceful. Because the state, the quality of your mind depends a lot on the object of your mind. When you think about somebody that you hate, you feel hatred, you feel anger, you don't feel peaceful. But when you think about somebody who is very loving, kind and peaceful, somebody like the Buddha, just imagine somebody like that. I don't have any direct contact and relationship with the Buddha, but I had a personal relationship with my meditation teacher, my first meditation teacher. I don't know whether he is still living. He was a layman, a musician, a musical instrument maker, and every day I think about him because he made a big turning point in my life. He was so calm and peaceful all the time. It is not so amazing to see a monk calm and peaceful. It is not something extraordinary to see, but it is to see a layman so calm, peaceful and so kind. I never saw him becoming upset or arrogant, putting down another person, getting angry, saying bad things about people. He kept 5 precepts without effort. He never talked about that, and he was kind to everybody, but he never spoke about metta. That is something very extraordinary. He does not say, I am a very loving person. People love him very much, but he was not biased to anybody. A very unusual person. A very highly developed person. He does not get attached to anybody, young or old. He treats everybody equally. He was not married. He was living with his mother, an old mother. He said, "As long as my mother lives I will look after her. After that I will become a monk." He loved his mother very much and he was the only son and his father had died. He is really looking after his mother very lovingly, with real metta, not just as a duty. His mother loves him very much also. To see somebody like that also makes you understand something very deep. It is beyond words. Even to talk about loving kindness is also very difficult. I had a very bad relationship with my parents. Many times I really hated them for not doing enough for me. This person, my teacher, loved his mother with all his heart, and this mother loved her son with all her heart. They were really devoted, but not too attached. This is very unusual, not too attached. Whenever I think of him it makes me very peaceful. This person is extraordinary. Another teacher was an old Sayadaw who died when he was 90 years old. He was also very mellow, kind and sweet. He never treated anybody with disrespect. I never saw him getting upset or worried about anything. Sometimes I got worried when I went to America with him. Just before we went, the time was getting very close. We already had our plane tickets and flight schedule, but we didn't have our passports, so I said, "Sayadaw, in a week we have to leave, but we don't have our passports yet." He said, "Don't worry." Very simple. Don't worry. How can he just say like that without worrying? It was very hard for me to understand in the beginning. People just loved him. He could not speak a word of English. Many Westerners looked at him and felt very amazed. Look at this person. So gentle. So mellow. Even in his voice, he didn't have any tension. Very soft and sweet voice. Very calm, but with a lot of energy and strength, not weakness. It is gentleness and softness together with strength and confidence. You cannot learn something like that from a book. You have to be with that person. And you can see that. He is like this and I can be like him. That gives you a lot of courage, hope. It is very important to learn meditation from a teacher. Although you can learn basic meditation instruction from any book, basic instruction is not very difficult to learn. But to really develop these higher qualities you have to be with a teacher, who is a living quality, a living example of loving kindness, living example of contentment, serenity, peacefulness, liberation, and he is so free. You have to live with that person for a long time. I lived with my teacher for about 5 years. The longer you live with that person, the more you learn this is real. He is not playing a role. Anybody can play a role. You can watch a movie and somebody is there. He is acting the part of a very serene and developed person. But this is just acting. Only after you have lived with that person for a few years then you really find out. When you think of the Buddha, try to find out more and more about the Buddha, his purity, his freedom, his wisdom, his metta, his karuna, compassion, and his selflessness. Get immersed in his qualities and you'll feel them. Because the mind consciousness depends on the object. When you keep a symbol, this is a symbol, an idea. Buddha is an idea for us. We think about it, the idea of the Buddha, his purity, his freedom, his serenity, his wisdom, his metta and karuna. The more you think about it, the more your mind will tune into that quality and you feel that quality in you, inside you. Because the more you think about the Buddha metta, the more you feel it. It becomes yours, and you aspire to that sort of thing. I want to be like that, so you set a goal. This is my ideal, although I will never be able to reach that high ideal like the Buddha. At least I can get to a certain stage. Quote, anybody who becomes enlightened, a disciple of the Buddha even, is called a follower. He was the leader, you are a follower. He was enlightened, and you can also be enlightened. You are also enlightened if you have attained enlightenment. To have a very clear idea of what we want to do and what our goal is very important. Being vague, "Oh well, I want to meditate and I want to be happy," you don't have a very clear idea. You don't have enough energy. The more you can define your goal, your ideals, the more energy you'll have. The more you can put time and energy into what you do. Be very clear about what you want to do. I am giving you just a general idea so that you can develop it. Before you meditate, just for a few minutes reflect on the purity, the serenity, the peacefulness, the freedom, the wisdom, the metta and karuna of the Buddha, and you can get absorbed into that. Feel very calm and peaceful. After that, if you meditate on a vipassana object, your mind will stay there longer. Because this idea of the Buddha conditions your mind to let go of other worldly cares, and you don't think that they are important anymore. About my car, about my business, about this and that, those things can wait. Because sometimes when you sit and meditate, you start thinking, "I have to pay that bill. I need to make a call." It is very important. Just when you start to meditate, something important comes into your mind that is distracting. That is why I am telling you to prepare your mind. This preparation is very important. Don't think that you are wasting your time because you are preparing yourself. The easier it is for you to meditate, you can let go of all those things. That bill is not important. That phone call is not important anymore. It can wait for 2 hours. Or any other thing. You'll find the best way to deal with it. But right now, leave everything behind. You can let go of all that. When you think of somebody like the Buddha who is so free, it makes it easier for you to let go of other things. For me, my real experience is my teacher. When I think about him, I can let go. I get some feeling of his freedom, of his detachment, his contentment. Prepare your mind like that. When you can get really absorbed in this object, a disc, white or brown, or just even a whole, or even metta meditation or meditating on Buddha, when your mind gets really absorbed and stays there without getting distracted, that is called Jhana. Jhana has 2 meanings. One is getting absorbed and another meaning is burning. It burns the defilements. Temporarily at least. You get really absorbed and forget about anything else. Your mind really gets into that object and stays with it. It is unshakable. Sometimes you cannot even move the mind into another object. It goes back into the same object and stays there. Very strong absorption, but that is quite difficult to develop. But you can develop access concentration quite easily. Access concentration means closer. You are not inside but very close. Like you come to this place. You are not inside this hall but you are just near the door. Access concentration is like that. Very close to absorption. Which means that your mind can stay with that object for a few minutes, then you get distracted for a while and you come back again, get a little bit distracted, come back again. It goes on and on like that. This is enough to practice Vipassana. To be able to practice Vipassana, you don't really have to develop absorption jhana, but you need a certain amount of quietness and stability of your mind. Even if you haven't developed that amount of samadhi, you can just go ahead and meditate on a vipassana object. Let's say when we meditate, we concentrate our mind on breathing. 1 breath, 2, for quite a long time you can stay with your breath. In the beginning, when I meditated, I tried to breathe in very deeply, unnaturally. I knew it was unnatural. But it was very useful because when I breathe deeply like this, I stay with my breath easier. You cannot run away because it takes up your whole mind. You stay with it, but you cannot do it for too long because you get very tired after a while and the body gets very hot. In the beginning I sat only for 10 minutes doing that deep breathing. It is tiring in the beginning, but after you do it for a while you don't get so tired anymore. You don't even feel that you are breathing in very hard. You are very calm and your body is doing the breathing. The mind is with the breath. You are not thinking about anything anymore. You cannot think about anything anymore. After you develop a certain level of concentration, go back to normal breathing, because if you stay with this gross false breathing you will be aware of this gross sensation and your samadhi will be gross because samadhi depends on the object. When the object is very gross, the samadhi also is very gross, very coarse. When you breathe normally, your breath becomes very soft and slow. If you can stay with that soft and slow breath, your concentration becomes stronger and stronger. The more the object becomes subtle, the more you can stay with that subtle object, the stronger your concentration becomes. The false breathing is useful, but you have to let go of it after a while. You need to know what is useful and when to let go of it. If you do that without developing any samadhi, you can develop some sort of concentration, and after a while you feel this air moving in and out. You can really feel it. You can feel it as just pure sensation. In the beginning you think that, I am breathing. The air is coming in. The air is going out. I feel it near my nose. After a while you forget about I am breathing. There is no I and no breathing anymore. There is no air coming in. There is no air going out. There is no nose anymore. There is sensation and awareness, and that becomes pure sensation and pure awareness. Not thinking about sensation anymore. You are directly in touch with this sensation, and it is just sensation. Not even air anymore. Air is an idea. Nose is an idea. Coming in is an idea. Going out is another idea. And I am meditating, it is also another idea. All of that goes away and your mind is directly in touch with one sensation, and there is pure awareness. Nothing added. No concept added. You are not even thinking about arising and passing away. You are not even thinking about sensation and awareness even. Don't think about anything at all, because we are in the habit of thinking, trying to understand by using this thinking process. This thinking process happens in our left side of our brain. If you want to get a clear idea, an interesting idea, we think and we use the left side of our brain. But meditation is intuitive. So when we meditate, we use the right side of our brain. If you understand how these two sides of the brain work, you'll understand what you are doing when you are meditating. Be very clear about this. When we are really meditating, we are not trying to understand anything intellectually. No intellectual process. Thinking is an intellectual process. We have to go beyond that. If we still try to use or take the help of this intellectual thinking, we will be stuck in this ordinary reality. Because thinking is ordinary. If we really want to experience extraordinary reality, we have to let go of thinking. Before you meditate, read books. Try to find out what samadhi means, what nama means, what rupa means, what anicca impermanence means, what dukkha suffering or oppression means, what anatta means. But when you really meditate, let go of all that. Just be directly in touch with whatever is. Be very, very simple. You have to be as simple as possible. Just be in touch with the sensation. Don't try to think whether it is arising or passing away, whether it is dukkha or anatta, whether it is nama or rupa even. Without thinking, If you can stay like that for a long time, it will appear spontaneously, intuitively. What it is and what it is something you cannot talk about. You cannot really talk about Kanika. You cannot think about Kanika actually, because when you really experience it, it is something you cannot talk about. The moment you try to think about it, it is not there anymore. That's why when you are meditating you cannot say, oh, something is arising and passing away. That is Kanika. Quote, at that moment you are not meditating anymore. You are using your thinking process. You are in ordinary reality again. It will happen, naturally, many times in your meditation practice because we are used to thinking and analyzing. We think that only when we think about something that we can understand it. We try to go back to think, analyze and understand. It will happen many times, and when it happens just look and just say, thinking. Even thinking, this is an AMA. This is a thought, and when you think, this is Rupa, this is also a thought. If you think, this is arising and passing away, this is Kanika. It actually is another thought. Watch those flashes of thoughts coming into your mind. The more you can see, the more you can let go. It won't go immediately. It is very difficult. But gradually those flashes of naming will go away slowly, and then with no words arising in your mind, you can be directly in touch with what is, and you understand it without conceptualizing. If you can do that, the rest is quite easy. The difficulty is that we always try to think about it and we get distracted. If we can be really in touch with one sensation, one awareness, the rest will come quite easily. Gradually I'll explain about the stages of Vipassana and Jhana inside knowledge, how they develop. It is very interesting, very natural. Although it is better for you not to know about this and just meditate. Before I meditated I didn't read these things. I just went to the forest to meditate, and my teacher told me not to read any books. Quite often I would go and listen to his Dhamma talks, and after a while he said, don't come to Dhamma talks. He wouldn't let me come and listen to Dhamma talks even. Go away and just meditate. If you have any questions, come. If you don't have any questions, just meditate. Sometimes I tried to get a book because I liked to read, and tried to hide the book somewhere. And then some days he would ask me, are you reading? Quote, not much, because I was really scared that he asked me. He said, don't read. You have got enough to do and you'll have more time to read later. Give up reading. Just meditate. Be in touch with your body and mind. After I had meditated for 3 years, I started reading Dhamma books and found out that it was really true what is in the book. I have experienced all those things, and now I find out it is in the books. Then I have more confidence in the teaching. This is real. What did I do when I meditated? I did something very simple. Actually, I didn't do anything. I just tried to be in touch with what is happening right now. When I found myself thinking, I tried to get in touch with my thoughts. At first I would be thinking for a long time, and then I remembered, I am thinking, and I thought, where did I start? Quote, and then I would try to trace back the thoughts. It was very interesting how it links one thing to another. Thoughts and ideas, they link. Then, when I got to the starting point, I thought, I started here, ended there, and the two have not anything to do with each other. Quote, and then slowly I would start thinking and catch myself thinking, and it stopped. It is very hard to stay in that state. I had to get in touch with some other sensations immediately, otherwise I would start thinking about another thing. Then slowly, in slow motion, I see the words forming in my mind. It is very interesting. Slow motion words, ideas coming in my mind. one word after another, and then stop thinking again. Later I found out that whenever I think about a word, there is some sort of emotion that comes with it, which is beyond words. Later I found out that before I think about something, there is already some vague idea in my mind about what I want to think, whether about a person, about food, or about something to do. Before I form a word in my mind, I have a very vague feeling of what it is. Something is coming up. It is very subtle. When I become aware of it, something coming up, it disappears again, and I settle down again. Because there is something coming up, I was not in a really settled state. My mind has some sort of agitation. It is jumping, and something is pushing. When I become aware of this feeling or emotion, or a desire to do something, even a desire to drink a cup of water, I can see the desire and it disappears. Sometimes, I see the image of the cup of water in my mind. When I want to drink, I see the image of the water pot, the cup of water, and I feel the thirsty sensation, and when I become aware of that, it disappears again, and my body and mind settle down again. All the time there is something churning inside, like a pot boiling. The more you become aware of that, the more it settles down, and then I just stopped thinking, not doing anything. The awareness is just there. Not trying to be aware of anything, just there. Like a big piece of mirror. Everything that passes in front of the mirror is reflected in the mirror. The mirror is not trying to take any object. The object passes. Sensation happens, and automatically it is aware of it and it goes away. The awareness is just there. You are not doing anything. At that stage, meditation is not something that you do. Meditation is something that is happening naturally, but it will take some time to get there. One person said, "You have been meditating for a long time and maybe you forgot how hard it is for a beginner." I think that is true. When I think about all that again, I remember that, in the beginning, I wanted to run away. I felt so hopeless, and I thought, this is not for me, although I really want to do it. I had the habit of thinking too much. I liked to read psychology, philosophy, comparative religions, which had me thinking too much. I wanted to become a writer also. Sometimes I would be sitting and I would be writing an article, a Dhamma article, wonderful thoughts coming in my mind. Wonderful ideas developing in my mind. I thought, oh, this is wonderful. I have to write this. Nobody has ever thought like me. I can really explain this. I can really inspire. Then my teacher said, don't write. Don't even make a record of your meditation. Because if you try to keep a record when you sit and meditate, you'll think, this is wonderful. I will write it down, and at that moment your meditation is gone. You can't go beyond that. You even have to let go of your insight. This is happening. Okay. Let go. Let go. Do you see how much you have to let go? We get attached to our understanding, our deep understanding. Question and answer. The word Kanika Samadhi is very difficult. Most people don't understand clearly what it means, because when you translate it, it means momentary concentration. And what does the word momentary mean? It has this name, Kanika Samadhi, so that we can talk about different samadhi. In Jhana Samadhi, Apana Samadhi or Upakara Samadhi, absorption concentration and access concentration. The mind is in touch with a concept that does not change. The object of samadhi is something that does not change. The object of vipassana is a process, not a thing. Which means the object of vipassana is something changing. Something changing means it stays for a while and it goes away. For the time being, the object is there and the awareness is there. The awareness of that object is there. Because awareness and object arise together. When the object is not there anymore, the awareness of that object is not there anymore, but a new object arises and the mind is aware of that also. Because the object lasts only for a moment, the awareness or samadhi for that object lasts only for a moment. Naturally, this awareness repeats again and again on different objects. It might just be brief but is continually aware of it. In-breath and out-breath are two different things. Even the sensation that is happening in one breath is changing. It takes about 2-3 seconds. It changes quite a lot. Even though the same thing repeats again and again, there is a kind of change. For example, you touch like this many times. Even though you felt the same thing every time, it is a new sensation. If you are aware of every time you touch yourself like this, you'll develop Kanika Samadhi, and you can stay with this Kanika Samadhi for a long time. It might be for a few seconds and it will become a few minutes, and it can become a few hours even. Some people, when they develop very deep samadhi in meditation, Vipassana meditation, the awareness and the object become like glue. It is like something very sticky that you throw to the wall and sticks there. In the beginning it is like you are throwing a tennis ball to the wall. It touches the object and bounces back. But after a while you throw something and it stays there. Although the object is arising and passing away, your awareness is continuously aware of that arising and passing away. There is continuity there. Because the object is changing, we call it Kanika Samadhi. It does not mean that just by developing a few minutes of concentration we can develop deep wisdom or attain liberation. But we begin with a few seconds of concentration and develop it into more and more seconds, and it becomes 1, 2, 3 minutes and so on. It will stay for 1 or 2 minutes and you get distracted for a few seconds and you become aware of that, and you are back. It happens like that. In Jhana Samadhi you can determine that I will be with this object for an hour without distraction. It is like you are hypnotizing yourself and giving yourself suggestions. And you can stay with that object for 1 hour without moving. But with Vipassana the object is always changing. No matter how many changes in objects, it does not matter. As long as you are aware of it, it is okay. In a certain stage of Vipassana meditation, when you have developed awareness so that you are aware of one thing after another arising and passing away in front of you, just like you are sitting looking out from the window and you see one car after another passing, you are not trying to think about the car, whether it is a Toyota, Mazda, yellow or white. You are aware of that. One thing after another going away. No choice. You choose a suitable object of meditation, breathing, rising and falling or touching sensation in your body. Whatever is suitable, and after a while you have no choice anymore. You stay aware. The objects might change all the time, but your awareness is continuous. In meditation things always change. The meditation experience does not stay the same all the time. Sometimes your mind can get absorbed into one thing and you see the same type of sensation, not one thing but the same type. For example, you touch like this. It is the same type of sensation, although it is not one sensation, but the same type of sensation arising and passing away. You can see the object. You can see the awareness both arising and passing away, very quickly. Sometimes you become aware of different things arising and passing away, not the same type of object. Different types of objects arising and passing away very fast. But no matter how fast they arise and pass away, you can keep up with it just like a juggler, juggling balls and rings. Many things at the same time. The awareness becomes like that. Don't expect that your meditation will be the same always. Sometimes your awareness becomes very broad. Sometimes it closes down and down to one thing only, to one very subtle thing. Sometimes you need to understand when the scope is too broad and you cannot keep up with it anymore. You lose your concentration. You get distracted. At that time, you should understand, now I need to close down. When you close down and down to one thing, the more you become concentrated on one object, the subtler the object becomes, and after a while it seems it is disappearing. You cannot experience it anymore. It happens sometimes. The samadhi becomes too strong and you lose the clarity of the object. In that kind of situation, you need to choose another thing, two things, so that you keep awake. Sometimes you get absorbed and it becomes like samatha. You don't see arising and passing away anymore. You get absorbed and you stay there. In Vipassana Samadhi, just to be absorbed and still and calm, it is not enough. We need to see the characteristic of the object. There are two characteristics of the object in meditation. One is the natural characteristic, another one is the shared characteristic. Natural characteristic means, let's say, hardness, softness, heat and cold. Hotness and coldness are not the same as heat and cold. They are different. But what is common is that both arise and pass away. That is common, shared. This natural, inherent characteristic is a shared characteristic, meaning whatever it might be, everything arises and passes away, and they are common in that regard.